Hello and welcome. This is Edexcel iGCSE ICT. This is a past paper question. This is paper 1, written paper, and this is the regional paper. This is the paper that comes out to people in different time zones so that they can all take the exam at the same time. Total marks out of 100. Now, at the beginning of the paper, you're given a case study like this, and you must read it carefully. You've got a family, Sajini and Ishan, and their 2 children, Kazuni and Deshan. They use digital devices in their everyday lives. So straight into question 1 then. Sajini shops online for a new laptop. Give 2 advantages of shopping on the high street rather than online. So on the high street we can test products, and also there's more personal interaction with the staff, which you don't get online. You don't need to be IT literate, and there's fewer security issues. So I'm just going to pick one of them. I'm going to go with the personal interaction with staff. So more personal shopping experience, interaction with staff. B, which one of these uses a laser to write to the media? Is it solid state, flash, hard disk, or optical? It is, of course, optical. C, Sajini cannot access Wi-Fi. Which one of these is a type of mobile phone connectivity that Sajini could use to access the internet? It is GSM. D, describe how 2 characteristics of flash memory affect its use. Now, flash memory has no moving parts, so it's more robust, better suited for things like iPads that get knocked about a bit. So I'm going to put that as my first point. So my answer is flash memory has no moving parts, which makes it more robust portable devices like tablets, computers, etc. So the second point I'm going to make is I'm going to look at perhaps power consumption. Because it has no moving parts, it's going to use less power, so it's going to be less of a drain on the battery. So that's going to be my second point that I'm going to make here. So as there are no moving parts, it uses less power, so there will be less of a drain on the battery. Therefore, the battery will last longer. E, explain one negative impact on the user of decreasing the amount of RAM. Well, now this is 3 marks, so we need a negative impact, and then we really need to explain it quite well for 3 marks. So negative impact, really programs are going to load more slowly. And then we need to say why that's going to happen. Now, having less RAM means that the computer is more reliant on the hard drive / secondary storage, which is slower than RAM. What happens on your computer is you start to use virtual memory if you run out of RAM. Now that is a section of the hard drive that is used as acting as RAM. But obviously the hard drive is slower than RAM, and because of that, then your computer is going to run more slowly. Programs will load more slowly. Let's move on to F. Sajini chooses to recycle her old laptop. Explain 2 ways to dispose of digital devices that will reduce the risk of harm to human health. Question F. Sajini chooses to recycle her old laptop. Explain 2 ways to dispose of digital devices that would reduce the risk of harm to human health. They need to be properly recycled, and we need to remove the batteries. So the first point I'm going to make for 4 marks is, now the digital device should be taken to a proper waste disposal facility rather than discarded into landfill, so that dangerous chemicals can be removed. So second point I'm going to make, so I'm going to talk about the batteries need to be removed and discarded properly. So my second point is that batteries should be removed and discarded properly, as they're a fire hazard and contain dangerous chemicals. G, which one of these is a type of storage media? Is it CD-ROM, hard drive, RAM, or SSD? Now, media, the answer is CD-ROM. So the answer to this question is A, CD-ROM. H, laptop can store 64 gigabytes of data. Construct an expression to show how many bits are in 64 gigabytes. Now we need to start with 64. Now that needs to be multiplied by 1024. Now, because it's gigabytes, it needs to be by another 1024 and another 1024, because kilobytes would be 1024, megabytes would be 1024, gigabytes would be another 1024. So we could write that as 1024 to the power of 3. Then we simply multiply the whole lot by 8. So just bracketed it there, 1024 to the power of 3. So the finished expression is 64 times 1024 times 1024 times 1024 times by 8. So 64 times 1024 to get to megabytes times 1024 to get to kilobyte times 1024 to get us to bytes. Then we multiply it by 8 because there's 8 bits in a byte, and that is the finished expression. You can also write 64 times 1024 to the power of 3 times by 8 as well, which would also work here. Question I, which finishes this section 1, question 1. Some people cannot afford to go online. There's 2 effects of reduced access to ICT. Well, less opportunities to save money and compare prices could be one. And the second point I make is less awareness of news, less opportunity to keep up to date with news. So that could be a second point I make there. So it's that real lack of information which you don't get if you don't have access, reduced access to ICT. You cannot go online. You could also have no access to online services, fewer work opportunities, so less opportunities to browse jobs online. There's also some positives in some ways, less distractions from work. Mostly it's about the negatives, so it's lack of information, lack of access to resources, lack of access to websites that can save you money. And that completes question 1 for 21 marks. Question 2. Sashini plays online games on her laptop. There's 2 ways in which Sashini is at risk of developing repetitive strain injury, or RSI. She's at risk from playing games over and over again, so prolonged use and maybe a poor sitting position. So those are going to be my 2 responses here. So my answers are: she's at risk from too prolonged use of the game, she's at risk from poor sitting position, from having a poor posture at her laptop. B. Draw a diagram to show how Sashini can connect her laptop to the internet. Label each device and the connectivity you use in your diagram. Now, it's not easy for me to draw the diagram in here, but you need to have a gateway / router, and then from there you need to have a Wi-Fi connection, an appropriate Wi-Fi connection. So as long as you've drawn them in there, then you get the 2 marks. C. Sashini connects her laptop to a local area network. Describe 2 benefits of doing this. So 2 benefits of a local area network are sharing peripherals like printers, sharing data, shared access to the internet. So shared peripherals such as printers are a benefit from a LAN. Shared access to the internet. You could also have flexible access, hot desking, and you can have shared data as well. D. Describe the function of a search engine. The search engine produces its results by matching keywords entered by the user into a database of web pages. So my answer is: a search engine produces results by matching keywords entered by a user against a database of web pages. E. Each time Sashini plays a game on her laptop, she updates the game software. Explain 2 reasons why Sashini should update the game software. Now you can see I started constructing my answer, so she should update the software to enjoy the latest features of the game. It's going to be the first thing I write. So she should update the software to enjoy the latest features of the game and improve her experience of the game. Second thing I'm going to go for is the security side. So fixing any bugs, patching any security issues. So the second point I've made there is to update the software to fix any security issues there may be in the game. F. Describe 1 risk to Sashini's system of updating the game software. Well, the updates could include malicious software, malware, and it may not be compatible with her hardware. So she'll either have to upgrade the hardware or uninstall the latest updates. So my answer is that the new updates might not be compatible with her hardware, so she will either have to upgrade the hardware or uninstall the updates. G. The laptop uses an SD card reader. Which one of these does this device provide? Is it media support, expansion capability, security, or connectivity? It is, of course, expansion capability. So an SD SD card reader provides expansion capability. It isn't media support, security or connectivity. And that completes question 2 for 17 marks. Question 3. Ashan works in an office with a network. He uses a smartphone to make an online video call. Which one of these protects his data? Is it WAN, WMA, WPA or WAP? It is WPA. And WPA stands for Wi-Fi Protected Access. 2. Describe how low latency affects his experience of the video call. Low latency means the delay is decreased. So low latency means it's a decrease in delay. If it was high latency, it would be an increase in delay. It's a decrease in delay between data transfer between devices, which means his voice will be in sync. If it was high latency, high delay, his voice will be out of sync with the video. State 3 ways that latency can be increased. It can be increased by distance, using wireless rather than wired, physical blockages, and more devices on the network. So I've got physical blockages, more devices on the network, which means lower bandwidth, and not using a wired network. B. Describe the function of a file server. So a file server stores files and allows them to be accessed when requested by other computers. C. Describe 2 drawbacks of using a peer-to-peer network. There's little control over the network, and also that there isn't shared storage, there's not shared backup. That's other problems. So there's little control over the network, no control over user access rights, as there's nobody in charge and everyone is equal. So that's a problem because there's no one actually looking after the network. Another drawback is no shared software, meaning increased cost and greater number of installs. So because software isn't shared out across the network, it needs to be installed individually, which means extra cost and more installation. D. A computer's media access control or MAC address can be used to identify it on a network. Take one other way of identifying a computer on a network is, of course, an IP address. So 2 ways to identify a device on a network is through the IP address or MAC address. The IP address can change, and I did a video about that before. IP address can change, whereas MAC address is fixed and cannot change. So E, which one of these is a feature of the media access control or MAC address? It is, of course, fixed. A, it is fixed. It's not changed regularly. It's not secure, it's not part of the IP address. The only possible right answer there is that it's fixed. F. Ashan tells Sashini that her smartphone will be able to use her location, even if she's not connected to the internet. State why Ashan is correct. Ashan is correct because the smartphone uses GPS. So the answer is the smartphone uses GPS for this. G. An inkjet printer forms an image on a page by spraying ink through a nozzle. Describe how a laser printer forms an image on a page. So how it works is toner is attracted to the paper using electrostatic charge and fused to the paper using heat, and that is how an image is formed on the page. And that completes question 3, the 17 marks. 4. Kazuni studies online. State 1 type of user-generated reference site that Kazuni could use for her studies. The answer there is a wiki. Now just be careful not to put Wikipedia. It is a wiki. That's a user-generated site. It is a wiki. Try and steer clear of using words like Wikipedia. You wouldn't have got a mark there if you put Wikipedia. So it is, of course, a wiki. B. State what's meant by the term plagiarism, something I hope you never do. It's copying others' work and presenting it as your own. So my answer is, it is copying others' work and presenting it as your own. C. 4 marks. Describe how the key features of a virtual learning environment, VLE, could be used by students completing a research project. So with the virtual learning environment, there's various different ways you can do that, and there's probably different ones in different schools, how that works, colleges. But with the VLE, the users can work at their own pace. They can download the teachers' presentations and look at them in their own time. So assignments can be set and marked by a teacher using the VLE. The students can get instant feedback. So as soon as the teacher's marked it, then that will be updated on the VLE and the students can see their results. We can also have that we can view multimedia. So multimedia can be embedded in the VLE, videos, podcasts, etc. And the students can collaborate with others. So there's plenty enough there to gain you at least 4 marks. There's probably too much there, but you just pick 2 of those points there as long as you explain it, then you're going to get 4 marks for that question. D. Some teachers use OMR. Which of these is an example of using the OMR? Is it setting assignments, doing research, backing up work, or taking registers? The answer is D. Taking registers. OMR stands for optical mark recognition, and register is taking marks, marking the students in, so the answer is D, taking registers. E. Describe how a VPN works. Now, a VPN uses tunneling. You need to use that word tunneling. So it's like creating a tunnel that cannot be accessed by anyone else, so it's secure, a tunnel to provide an encrypted connection to a private LAN using the internet. So think of the VPN as being like a tunnel, a secure tunnel, and cannot be intercepted, cannot be misread by other people. It's a secure connection using the internet. So it's connection to a private LAN using the internet. So that is the answer. You need to provide a technical response there. So you don't need to provide answers about accessing geo-restricted content. That's not what the question is asking you. It's asking you about the technicalities of how it works. So you need to describe technical detail, how it actually works. F. Kazuni creates a password for a student's account. A password contains letters and numbers. State 2 other features of a strong password. So a strong password has at least 8 characters, a mix of upper and lower case, and it may contain special characters as well. G. Which one of these is a type of software used to encrypt files? Is it backup, utility, update, or network? It is, of course, utility software. H. An 8-mark question. Describe how the availability of goods and services online could affect Sashimi's lifestyle. So I've covered this many, many times. You must make a plan. Now, there's 2 things you've got to do with an 8-mark question. You need to plan it, and you need to write a conclusion. So first thing we're going to do is plan it. So I suggest that you get a scrap piece of paper, and you write in the middle, online goods and services, and you take that apart. You write all your thoughts down on scrap paper, so you're not going to scribble your answer. You write all on scrap paper, so you get it all your thoughts out before you start constructing your answer. So I've taken this apart here. I've looked at what are online goods and services: shopping, banking, news, social media. I've looked at its availability 24/7, all the time, don't need to travel, can shop from any country that delivers, wider range of choice, can compare prices. Effects on lifestyle: Shashini can shop anytime she likes from the comfort of her own home, can compare prices. Access to information, 24/7 lifestyle. So that's the effect on the lifestyle now. It's that you can shop anytime, anywhere you like. And then some positives there: convenience, can shop anytime she likes, can compare prices, can do banking online, access to information, stay closer to friends and family. And the negatives there as well, because we need to discuss positives and negatives in our answer. Less actual social interaction, as more time spent online. Can be detrimental to health too. Too much time spent on a device. Need internet connection to be able to use it. Online goods and services. So that's my plan, and from my plan I'm going to construct my answer. So just a basic introduction there, which you can read there, just opening up my response, and into the main impacts there. So I've written a bit about the impact there on banking and social interaction and shopping online and keeping in touch with friends and family in other countries easily and more cheaply. Then I've gone on to discuss the positive and negatives, which have to be a part of the answer. So positives are convenience, that I've talked about before, and negatives include less social interaction, RSI, etc. All the things that I've discussed before. Please pause the video if you need to read that, and you can read that through carefully. Then my conclusion, and you must write a conclusion, so make it really clear. Either write conclusion as a title or write in conclusion. So in conclusion, I would suggest that the impact of online goods and services is huge on Sashini's and everyone's lifestyle. From shopping to banking, many things can now be done online at any time from the convenience of a mobile device. However, there are some drawbacks, as discussed, such as health issues which need to be taken into consideration. Overall, though, it has many positives and make many things we do much more convenient. And there is the full answer, so pause it now if you want to read that through, and there is my 8-mark response. So looking at kind of the mark schemes, 6 to 8 marks, level 3, just move this across, compares different ranges of points of view. I've done that, positives and negatives. It's Supported by evidence, yep, I've written that. Linked to the scenario, yep, I've talked about Sashini's lifestyle. A conclusion, so you must write a conclusion. And the final point there, good focus and organisation, which have to be in your answer. So you must make sure it is focused and organised, and the only way to do that is to write a plan and not to start writing on the exam. So before you write anything on the exam paper, you get a scrap piece of paper and you create a plan first. And then you can construct a much better answer with a much better chance of you getting 6 to 8 marks, which is what you want for this question. 6 to 8 marks is a big deal. It really is a game changer. It's really going to shift you up a grade boundary. And that completes question 4. 5. Deschamps buys a computer game. Deschamps plays with a card using NFC. Explain the risk to Deschamps of using NFC. So I've written, a PIN is not required, so he could lose money if his card was used without authorization. B. The game is stored on a DVD-R. Explain 2 reasons why the game software may require access to the hard drive. Well, it requires access because the DVD may not hold enough data. Additional data may need to be stored, or we may need to store the game's progress. Now my second point is going to be that the DVD-R is not writable. DVD-R. So the game progress may need to be stored on the hard drive. So the DVD-R is not writable. DVD-RW is the writable one, by the way. DVD-R is not writable, so game progress will need to be stored on the hard drive. C. Describe how the speed of the processor affects Deschamps' experience of gaming. Now, faster processors have more cycles per second, so will process more instructions per second. So now we link that to the game and we say this means that the graphics will be processed at a faster rate, which means the game will appear better quality and more realistic. So I've written the technical part about the processor processing instructions per second, so more instructions per second, and how that then links to the gaming experience to gain the 4 marks. D. The payment system uses a proprietary operating system. State what is meant by the term proprietary software. Now, proprietary software means the software was created by a company and they will just sell a license to use the software and distribute it how they want to. So the proprietary software, when you buy a piece of software, you're buying the license to use it. You're not actually buying the software itself, you're buying the license to use the software. Whereas with open source, it's usually free. Which is the opposite. It's usually free and you can do anything you want with the code behind it. You can distribute it how you want. Whereas with proprietary software, you can buy it, but you cannot distribute it yourself. You cannot share it with other people. D2. Describe how operating systems use memory management. So the operating system transfers programs in and out of memory, keeping track of memory usage. So memory, or RAM, is assigned to frequently used programs. So as you're running the program, the instructions are stored in RAM. Obviously, the more RAM you have, the more programs you have open, the smoother your computer runs. E. Malware is a threat to Deschamps' data. There's 2 other threats to Deschamps' data. So 2 main threats are phishing and farming. F. Deschamps makes his own digital games. Discuss how copyright legislation affects how Deschamps uses digital media to make a game. 8 marks. So as said back in question 4, you need a plan. So what I've done is, in the centre of my page, I've written down copyright legislation and I've just looked at what exactly that is. So Copyright Act of 1988 includes the following files: images, documents, music, videos, and others. Need permission from the author of the file. Breaching the Act can lead to legal consequences. Global reach of the copyright laws are not equal into problems and exploitation. How does it affect Deschamps? Deschamps' hard work in creating his digital game should be protected by legislation to avoid others copying his work. Deschamps also needs to be aware that this law applies to him and he's not allowed to copy other games or use part of them without the author's permission. Just coming around, further copyright legislation, free licenses and licenses such as Creative Commons ensure users are aware of their rights and provides a platform for lesser-known artists. Further copyright legislation. Copyright legislation protects the rights and revenues of artists, therefore allowing them to continue to produce creative works without having to rely on other sources of funding. Therefore, copyright legislation protects the creative arts that would otherwise be undermined. So it's protecting artists they've created their work and allows more artists to come through and create other work. If there wasn't copyright legislation, then work would just be copied and artists wouldn't be protected from that. So I've constructed my answer here. I've got a bit of an introduction there, and you can pause the video and read it carefully now. And as I said in question 4, you must have a conclusion. So in conclusion, copyright can protect Deschamps' hard work so that it cannot be copied or used without his permission. Deschamps also needs to be aware that his actions are also covered under the Act, and so he must not use other work without their permission. Now that completes question 5, and that completes the paper. So question 5 is out of 24, and the total is out of 100. So a big thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that very, very much. Thank you for that. And I will continue to create more videos to help you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.